Hey, I'm back with a follow-up episode as promised. Welcome to Adventures in Relationship, a psychoeducational show about healthy relationships for adults with complex trauma, where we recognize that relational recovery and each unique relationship is its own adventure. My name's Amy Gordon. I'm a psychotherapist working on unceded Tiwa land in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I work with individuals and couples. Feel free to reach out if you would like to work with me. This is a follow-up episode to that last episode where I shared some tips on how to mitigate the pain and damage that can happen in arguments. And that first time, I offered considerations for mindset to activate before entering conflict, and also maybe some ground rules to apply to anytime you're in an argument or kind of a tense interpersonal dynamic with your partner. What I promised to follow up on were two more lists. So the first one being when you're tempted to be offensive, the second one being when you're tempted to be defensive. So this first list applies to bringing up concerns or needing to approach a topic that is likely to feel tense, harsh, or threatening, or even hurtful when we need to bring something up. So, this is kind of how to set yourself up for a little bit more success during the argument. The first recommendation I have is to really go slow. You really need to monitor your own escalation. You will likely need to intentionally slow things down. And if arousal starts to increase for one or both of you, that's something that you're definitely going to want to just keep in mind throughout. And I know this kind of sounds like it belongs in the first list, but because this is sort of the tone that we start out with, if you're coming to your partner with a problem, I want to recommend that you remind yourself right away, go slow. Say it slowly. Be very intentional in how you approach the topic. Don't just go in and spill your guts or go in and word vomit all over, that sort of thing. The second thing I want to offer is to discuss one topic at a time. And of course, this is both people's responsibility. You can remind your partner to do the same, but if it seems like things are kind of piling up and snowballing, it's really important that you dial it back to just the topic at hand. It's impossible to tackle two topics at once, especially when you're both upset. So just really, really, really always try to keep it to one topic at a time. And if you're bringing up an issue, that's definitely on you to only bring up the one topic at a time. So if you had, let's say, there was a family dinner that you went to and your partner kind of threw you under the bus, like made a joke about you, that they also didn't spend enough time with you. They were really focused on their brother-in-law. Maybe they drank too much. Maybe they didn't want to go at the time that you agreed to go. Like you could have a litany of complaints, but really try to establish one topic. So if that were the case, maybe a good way to bring up just your experience overall instead of like, I'm really pissed at you because you did this, this, that, and the other. You could say, when we went to your family dinner last week, I really felt like you were inconsiderate of me that whole evening. So keep it to one thing, one way to just mention what the problem is. So define that problem as a singular topic. It's going to go a lot better than trying to hammer out all those elements. Like you're always making fun of me, throwing me under the bus. You're like so close with your brother-in-law, whoever I said that was brother-in-law, that I feel invisible, that you promised me that we would leave at 9 o'clock, but you refused to leave at 9 o'clock. And I'm so sick of that happening. You could really piece that out in a way that would just be overwhelming. So to start, I felt like not considered at all when it came to that family dinner. So just try to keep it simple as possible. The third tip I have is to lead with relief. That's what we call it in PACT, leading with relief. And Gottman uses another term, which is like softened startup. So soften your startup. But all of this is to get in front of what you already know are your partner's sensitive areas. So if your partner, and I guess we'll just continue with this example, if your partner is maybe more avoidant leaning, they're probably really sensitive to criticism because they interpret any criticism as sort of a mark against them that they are not good enough. So you want to relieve their concern about not being good enough from the get go if you can. Something like, darling, I know your intentions are really good. I know that you never get to see your brother in law. I know that we don't spend a lot of time with your family, and you really enjoy spending time with your family. So, you want to offer a knowledge of what your partner's intentions are if they're more avoidant. If they're more anxious, you're going to want to offer some kind of reassurance that you're not rejecting them. So, that might be like, initially saying something along the lines of, I really love spending time with you and your family. Or I am so happy that you are getting to spend more time with your family. And I value that. I'm here for that, that sort of thing. And if your partner is disorganized, there's a core wound around trust that you might want to acknowledge immediately. So in this case, it's a little more removed. But when you're offering relief in bringing up the topic of how your partner kind of blew you off and was disrespectful and inconsiderate at a family dinner, where there might be some concern about trust could be they're not trusting that you are going to let them, in quotes, let them see their family. It could be a matter of them not being able to trust that you're not going to leave because you're so upset. So you could soften your startup or lead with relief, knowing that your partner has a hard time with trust. And you might say something like, baby, I am all in with you. I really want to figure out how we can find a little more harmony in some of these situations where we're distracted by other people and situations. So there's a reassurance that, like, you're not trying to take their family from them and that you're not leaving. I mean, you could probably come up with an example of your own that's better than that, but just kind of spitballing here. Another tip I want to offer is really just a reminder that your goal is to return to harmony. You can keep that in mind when you're leading with relief or softening your startup. You just are going to get a lot farther if you keep reorienting toward harmony together, to getting back to a place of joy and connection. So just keep that in mind. You can mention it out loud. Hey, I don't want to tear you apart. I'm not here to make you feel bad. I really just want us to come back to a place of being able to move forward together with joy. However you would say that. My scripts are kind of corny, so definitely feel free to alter them. Along the lines of only one topic at a time, this is a follow up, which is don't move on until that topic is resolved. Every once in a while, you will have to just kind of stick it in the parking lot or put a pin in it because it's not going anywhere, but be clear that you are talking about this. You're not able to come to a resolve. So you're going to talk about this next, but don't let them snowball. Don't let them overlap. That is really just going to turn into an avalanche of overwhelm. It happens all the time. That's all I'll say about that. I might get back to it. Another tip is going to be to use I language. So if your partner was kind of shitty at this family dinner last week or whatever, you don't want to start off by saying, like, hey, you were ignoring me, or you were really rude, or you really pissed me off, you really disappointed me. You're going to want to start out by saying, like, I felt. So we're really just differentiating between subjective and objective. We present things as objective. This is the truth, matter of fact, bar none. We tend to get met with a lot of defensiveness. That feels gaslighting a lot of the time, like you're really challenging somebody's reality. So your subjective experience, being how you felt, how you saw it, what you want, are really objective facts about you that can't be argued with as easily. Like, it's a real game changer if you learn how to do this well. So use I language. I might say, like, I felt pretty dismissed the other night when we were at your sister's house, or I felt invisible. I felt concerned. I really didn't like how You seem to be pretty focused and seemed to be not, I didn't like how you were focused on the brother in law the whole time instead of me. It seemed to me like you were, because that's true. Our perceptions are not 100% accurate. And so, not only is it more truthful and honest to present your case in this way, it's also going to land in a much safer way to your partner. In doing that, so this is another tip, I want you to name your internal experience. So we're talking about feelings, assumptions, stories, fears. I'm always afraid that I'm going to get stranded at a stranger's house and have to sleep on their couch. Like you might say something like that versus like you put me in a position of maybe having to sleep on a stranger's couch that night because you drank and you said you wouldn't or whatever that is. So trying to be like, I was afraid that that would happen. I'm sensitive to this. I care about that. So this is really coming from you, but I want you to mention your experience versus just stating the facts as you see them. There's a big difference because this is appealing to our partner's compassion and empathy. That's what we should be doing in arguments. We shouldn't be trying to win or be right or prove our point or be absolutely understood. What we need to do is really just get our partner to care about our experience. And that's why we want to reference our feelings, our fears, our assumptions, that sort of thing, versus them needing to see things how you see it, because that's just impossible most of the time. And it's extremely not helpful. So mention how you feel, because that is what's important. I feel a little shaky. I feel a little anxious. I feel frustrated. I feel, whatever that is, but you want your partner to care about how you feel, not about you needing to get your way. There's a really big difference. So point to the vulnerability underneath what you're wanting to say. I've already said that it's really not helpful to try to get your partner to fully understand your view. So this is along those lines, and it might sound a little hypocritical, but we should be trying to understand our partner's view. It's really only smart. Like I got a cat back here, right? You see Monkey? It's Monkey. He's giving himself a little bath. Monkey's a really different cat than his sister Mouse. So he does not like his ears being pet. He's like, don't fucking touch my ears, don't touch my head. For whatever reason, he doesn't like that, right? But Mouse loves it. She loves little scratchings around her ears and stuff. She just loves it to death. So very, very different animals. And if I keep going in trying to scratch Monkey behind the ears, trying to pet his ears and his head, that's really on me for being pretty stupid. Like I should know better. If he bites me, if he walks away, that's really on me. So that's the kind of understanding I'm talking about. We need to know what our partners are sensitive to, what sets them off, what they have been communicating to us, what their needs are, all of those things. So if you already know that your partner is really sensitive about their family, like they feel like they don't get to spend enough time with their family, or that you don't like their family, but they really love their family and want to be close with their family, you should know better than to go in and speak as though you don't like their family. That's going to feel really threatening to them. So, sort of in the same vein, what I'm encouraging you to do is understand your partner, where they're coming from. You should know them well enough at a certain point. Maybe you're early on in a relationship where you're just kind of here to learn about healthy relationships, and that's fine. But you seeking to understand your partner is really important. And it's important in the inverse, but it's really unskillful to insist in the throes of conflict that your partner prove their understanding of what you're saying. Now, it's reasonable to expect that they can reflect what you're communicating. So if you say you offered to drive and then you drank, and that made me feel really concerned that I would have to spend the night on a couch, and I was really concerned that you were putting me in an uncomfortable position. You need your partner to be able to understand that you were concerned that they were putting you in an uncomfortable position and that you don't want to have to be stranded, potentially having to sleep on somebody's couch. They need to know that. But if you are really insisting that they reflect to you why you're concerned, how this could apply to all these different scenarios, it's just too much. It's just too much to process. So, not in that moment. Just know that when you are respectfully and maturely offering constructive feedback to your partner that they are learning. You don't have to make that the hill that you need to die on in this argument. What we really need is just behavior change. We need them to get that you don't like feeling stranded because of circumstances like that, and they need to not do it again. That's what you need from your partner. You don't need them to thoroughly agree with you. If they're couch surfers and they don't give a shit where they sleep, you don't need to try to convince them to be like you. You don't need to try to convince them that they shouldn't be the way they are. You just need them to get that you are the way you are. Okay, just have a few more for the offensive side here. Another one is to not accuse your partner of anything. If you are 100% sure that they did something that was a violation of your sense of security or your shared agreements, your shared values, and you are 100% sure, just lead with that. I watch a lot of couple reality TV, and last night I was watching The Last Resort. And there's a couple in that show where there's a woman who's, I believe they're married now. Her husband moved from another country and she was managing his social media, helping him build a career, but she had control over his passwords and all of his accounts. She found some messages between him and another woman, and she immediately started accusing him of cheating. And I think there was even an implication of having sex, like having sex with another woman that she repeatedly referred to. Wouldn't give him the passwords for his own accounts. That was sort of the dynamic. But the accusation of you are cheating, I have the receipts, right? It's not 100% fair. We know that he was flirting. He was having what, I don't know if it was inappropriate because I don't know what their agreements are, but he was having some conversations that she was uncomfortable with another woman, right? But coming in as though she's sure he was having sex with somebody else is just untrue. And it really shut him down. He was just like, you're a fucking liar. He kept saying, you're a fucking liar. You're a fucking liar. It's not helpful to come in as though you're sure something is happening if you're not. You really got to try to hold on to even that little glimpse of hope, of flexibility, of other possibilities, even when it's so hard because your fear, your protective systems are just screaming that I'm so worried this is happening. But if you don't know, you don't know. So don't go in with accusations. And even if you do know that your partner did something that you don't like, coming off as though this is an inquisition is not going to be helpful. So either present the facts like, hey, I was checking in on, the stats or whatever, your performance, blah, 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 on social media. And I did see in your messages that you've had this conversation going on with this woman, and I am really concerned about that. Or you could say something like, hey, you didn't take the trash out this morning like you said you would, and all that food from last night smells awful, and the dogs got into the trash. There's a mess on the kitchen floor. And that's clearly because you didn't take the trash out. You don't need to say that last part, but it's clear that that is what happened. So state the facts. You might decide to share how you feel about that. So, when you said that you would take the trash out last night, I believed you. And when I woke up this morning, the trash had not been taken out and the dogs got into the trash and there is food all over the floor. I'm concerned about our dogs choking or getting sick. And also now there's this big mess that needs to be cleaned up. So I'm frustrated. You could say something like that, but just don't make it an accusation, especially if it's like, if you're assuming that your partner is just having a power struggle with you, is just being punishing or did that on purpose. They didn't take the trash out because they feel resentful about something. If you're operating under some assumption about your partner's motivations, it's usually not going to be a good idea to mention that. I know that you're just trying to get back at me and that's why you didn't take the trash out. Like that would be an accusation. So just try to avoid accusations. They really make people feel defensive. And there are better ways of going about any situation where you need to confront your partner about a behavior. This is also related. It's to not be hyperbolic or globalizing. So if you were to go in and say like, You never take the trash out. You always ignore housework. You never support me, like stuff like that. Every time I asked, you never, da, da, da. So always, never, black and white thinking. This kind of goes along the lines of objective, subjective too. If you're presenting something as though it's a fact when your partner can reasonably disagree with you, you're setting yourself up for this not going well. So just really try to avoid the always, the never, anything black and white like that. It just tends to escalate emotions. Just really try to refrain from hyperbolic, globalizing, or extreme verbiage. You don't need to present in that way. It's just not going to be helpful, I promise. And then the last thing I want to mention, which kind of goes under both, or maybe even all three categories of like the mindset, the when it's tempting to be offensive and when it's tempting to be defensive. This tip is just don't threaten the relationship. If you're ready to break up, you're going to have to say that. If you don't want to be together, then break up. But it can be torturous, especially for folks with insecure attachment, which is most, to hear repeatedly, I don't think I can do this anymore, or I can't do this anymore, or just walking away and leaving, saying, I'm leaving. However, I mean, people threaten the relationship in all sorts of ways, but just don't. Just don't do it. There's no need to threaten. If you're going to end the relationship, but don't threaten to do so. It instills an existential fear, as in people don't know if their relationship is going to exist. And relationships can be hugely foundational in people's lives, and it is like the rug being pulled out from under them. Most of the time, when people threaten the relationship, they're manipulating their partner into feeling strong feelings. It's controlling and emotionally violent. So just don't do it. If you want to break up, but don't threaten the relationship ever. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at my list and go through those really quickly. I believe that was 13 items. So, first, go slow, monitor escalation, and slow things down if arousal starts to increase. The second one, discuss only one topic at a time. The third one, lead with relief or soften your startups. A repetition of keeping the goal of harmony in mind as the fourth item. 5, wait until one topic is resolved before moving on. 6, use I language. I think, I feel, I worry, I assume. Use lots of I language. The seventh one is to name your internal experience. You are referencing something vulnerable here. This is not a surface level, like I think, I assume. This is like, I get worried that, or it's so hurtful to me when I'm terrified, but make it about something vulnerable. Make it about something worth protecting, not a need to be right. Make it about self-preservation. Make it about a need for empathy or compassion. But don't make it about what your partner is doing wrong. Make it about how what your partner is doing is concerning or hurtful to you. The eighth one is to seek to understand your partner. As you're listening to them, or even before you approach the topic, kind of running through your mind, why might they do that? So just kind of think about that. And then as you're discussing the matter, really prioritize having a deeper understanding of your partner. So that's like my monkey here. He does not like to be pet on his ears. I know that about him. So it's really important to know these things about your partner. Another repetition is consciously dropping the need to be right. In that first episode, I quoted a couple people with questions like, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? Or would you rather be right or would you rather be married? Healthy relationships are not an inferior and superior position thing. We need to have relationships with equal partners with shared power. And needing to be right is really trying to put yourself above your partner. And it's not healthy for mutual, interdependent, mature relationships. along those lines is number 10, which is to drop the desire for your partner to have to prove they understand you. Remember that you need behavior change. You don't need full psychic understanding. You don't need somebody to read your mind. You want them to understand you, like Monkey wants me to understand that he doesn't want me to pet his sensitive ears. But what really matters is the behavior change. It doesn't matter to him if I understand. What he needs is for me to just not fuck with his ears, right? So we're looking for behavior change. Understanding will come over time, but to make that the focal point of like, I need you to prove to me that you understand what I'm saying. Like when I was a kid, I was shuffled around from family member to family member, and I had to sleep on the couch. You know, I had to sleep on all these nasty couches as a kid. And I need you to always keep that in mind. My history of couches, my not having access to my makeup, my medications, my toothbrush, my pets, whatever, whatever, whatever. So don't make it about how much they have to prove to you. They understand you. Make it about they understand that they need to behave differently in the future. That's what's really important. All right, number 11, don't accuse your partner of anything. If you know for sure 100% that something happened, mention that as a matter of fact. Hey, I'm aware that you did this or that this happened, and fill in the blank or XYZ, blah, blah, blah. But don't go in with accusations like, I know that, da, 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 when you really don't know. Accusations shut down communication. So don't do it. If you know, state it as a matter of fact. If you don't know, be transparent in asking. So if we're going back to the last resort example, that woman might say, hey, I was in your Instagram and I noticed that in messages you are having conversations with so and so. Are you meeting up with her? Are you in love with her? Are you thinking about cheating on me? Like you could ask questions, don't make it an interrogation. Ask questions, get clarity, but don't make accusations. Number 12 is don't threaten the relationship. If it's time to break up, it's time to break up. That's a matter of fact. State it, mean it, and leave. But don't threaten the relationship. Most of the time, that's a manipulation tactic and it's really emotionally violent. So don't do it. You don't need your partner to have to wonder every day if the relationship is going to exist tomorrow. It's really cruel. Don't threaten the relationship. And last on this list is avoid hyperbolic, globalizing extremes in your verbiage. They are almost never accurate. That was a little meta, almost never. And they come off as dismissive, gaslighting, and controlling. So avoid globalizing, hyperbolic extremes in what you have to say. Okay, we're ready for that second list, which is moments when it's tempting to get defensive. So this is kind of like when you're on the receiving end of constructive feedback or a partner's complaints, that sort of thing. So when your partner comes to you and it's tempting to just say, I don't do that, or I didn't do that, or I did that because da da da. These are things to do instead. So the first one is monitoring your own regulation. So the instant your partner comes to you and says, hey, I need to talk to you about something, already notice, hey, my heart rate is increasing. I need to take a breath. I need to remind myself that I love this person, that we're on the same team. Monitor your own escalation. Don't let yourself pop off and don't let yourself go there into being completely reactive and volatile. Just notice how you're feeling. That awareness is really going to help you stay cool during the conversation. The second item is related, and that's talk. Don't yell. You don't need to yell. Take a breath, talk. You want to keep the tone friendly, and monitoring your own voice can be very self-regulating, activating that metacognition, which is like noticing how you feel, noticing what you're thinking, and being conscious of what you're saying are innately regulating. So not only is it going to help the conversation go well, it's going to help you take care of yourself during that conversation. I'm going to repeat this again because it's so important to drop the need to be right. So maybe your partner presents a case like, hey, when we went to your family dinner yesterday, you completely ignored me. You drank too much. You blah, 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 blah. If they go into complaints like that and you're on the receiving end, I just want you to remember that you don't need to be right. And you're like, no, I didn't. I didn't drink too much, or I didn't completely ignore you. I didn't. No, I didn't. That is often our automatic response. And I am encouraging you not to go with that automatic response. It is not going to go well. The fourth item here is to take a break if needed. If what your partner said really got you upset, or if your partner seems extremely dysregulated, either way, take a break. There are good ways and bad ways to take a break during an argument. A bad way would be to simply storm off without saying anything. Another bad way, and I know I'm using like value-based language, but whatever, I'm trying to keep it simple. Another bad way to take a break would be to say, like, you're insane, or you are completely dysregulated, or you're acting crazy. I can't deal with this right now, and walking away. We don't want to do that. There's an accusation there. We actually don't know. I mean, we can tell for the most part how upset our partner is, but we don't need to be labeling and assigning somebody else's psychological state. It's boundaryless. So just recognize in that moment, this is not going well. We are both upset. Just keep it simple, and you don't need to define what's happening for your partner to know you need to take a break. So to say, hey, I realize that this is kind of a big topic, and I want to figure this out with you. But in this moment, I don't think we're really seeing eye to eye. I don't think we're communicating with each other very well. I'd like to just take a little bit of time to kind of gather myself and come back to you in a way that's going to be more helpful. And we always want to offer a time frame and a return. Simply walking away or even saying like we need a break, like I can tell that we are just not in a great place to be able to figure this out right now, and walking away. It's not great to not have kind of a container for that, because for a lot of folks, especially disorganized and anxious attachers, that feels like abandonment. It really brings up abandonment wounding when somebody's upset with you and then just dips indefinitely. So to say, hey, I want to go listen to a podcast, or hey, I want to take a walk around the block. I'm going to walk buddy and I'll be right back. I need to get my head right. I'm going to go meditate, whatever it is, offer like, an estimated time frame based on the activity or an explicit time frame. Most people only need 10 or 15 minutes. Try to keep it as time limited as possible. Of course, there are circumstances where you might need to wait until the next day. I'm not a believer in don't go to bed angry. I think it's okay to pause and sleep on it, but make sure that there is an offer to return. Hey, let's talk about this tomorrow, or let's talk about this after your meeting, or let's talk about this after work, whatever that is. Just offer a return so you're not triggering your and your partner's abandonment fears. The fifth item is just not to make taking a break about your partner. Make it about you or you both. So, no, you're dysregulated. We're dysregulated, or simply, this is not going well. I think we should take a short break and try to come back to this in like 10 or 15 minutes when maybe we're both a little more able to see eye to eye or communicate. Or try just saying, hey, I think we need to pause. Let's try coming back to this in a few minutes. Even going to the bathroom can be helpful. I got to go pee, right? Or I'm going to go get myself a LaCroix or bubbly water, whatever it is. Find a reason to take a break without making it about your partner, that your partner's wrong, that your partner's flawed. You both just need a break. I'm also going to repeat, because it's so important, that you use I language. So if you're receiving a complaint or your partner is concerned about something, let's go with the last resort example again. Let's say this woman wants to come to her partner and address her concerns about him communicating with another woman on Instagram. So instead of coming in like, I know you're having conversations with so and so on Instagram or whatever, coming in saying, "Hey, I saw that you're having conversations with so and so on Instagram, and I'm feeling really confused and concerned about how close or how flirtatious or how whatever those conversations look to me." So just make it about you and do address the heart of the matter. What hurts, why you're worried, what you need, versus coming off as just needing to be right. It's not about being right. It's about your need for security or respect or whatever that is. So, yes, I'm just repeating to use I language, whether you're more on the offensive side or the defensive side, use I language always as much as possible. And get below the surface and use I language to acknowledge your vulnerabilities, those vulnerable feelings, the things that you really need to protect versus a need to be right. Number 7 is to avoid disagreeing with your partner's subjective experience. So if your partner comes to you and says, "I felt disrespected last night," or "I felt dismissed last night," responding with, "I didn't disrespect you," or "I didn't dismiss you," is never helpful, ever. Don't do it. You've lost your partner, you've lost a sense of connection the instant that you go there. You've got to be open to understanding that they are a different person than you and their experience is different than you. They're more sensitive about certain topics than you are, and you need to honor that. So if your partner says, "I felt this," or "I assumed that," or "I was thinking this," like, accept that as fact because it is fact, unless your partner is truly trying to manipulate you in some way, which is a whole different issue. That's a whole topic for another episode. Most couples, most people who are acting with integrity, they really are sharing what their experience is like. And to disagree with that is essentially gaslighting. Don't do it. A related matter, but a little bit different, is to really take seriously your partner's expression of feeling threatened, worried, jealous, hurt. If they're telling you that they're feeling these things, that they're struggling with these hard emotions, that should be important to you because that is a reality in your relationship that you are partially responsible for, and that really does need to be addressed. The longer we continue to feel insecure with one another around any area where these feelings are coming up, the more damage is being done to the relationship. This is like pointing to rot in your foundation that you really need to fix as soon as possible because it is only going to get worse unless you do. So don't dismiss those things. They are important and you do need to take them seriously. So if in this case, the last resort woman, she's approaching her partner saying, "I know you're having these conversations and I'm concerned about that." Her dude needs to take that seriously because it is never going to get better between the two of him if he's just going to try to get her to forget about it or to make her just shut up and put up with whatever he wants to do. It's just not going away. And it is only going to get worse. And it's only building more resentment, which is also eroding at the relationship. So you need to take those things seriously and address them. We should never be dismissing or invalidating our partner's experience because it is real and it is affecting your relationship and it's not going anywhere. It's pretty stupid to just hear a partner complaining about a hurt, a concern, an insecurity and ignoring or dismissing that. Don't do it. I could also go on and on about this, but I'm not going to. So I'm going to move on to the next item on this list, which is a repetition of "don't threaten the relationship." This can almost just as easily come up when you're on kind of the receiving end or where it's tempting to be defensive. Let's just go back to the last resort. If he is going to respond to her with, "This is insane. I don't want to do this anymore," like in response to her bringing up that concern, that's severely damaging to the relationship. For somebody to be vulnerable and say, "I'm concerned about this, I'm hurt about this," and to be told that, "I don't want to be with you anymore because you're like that," that is one of the most destructive things you can possibly do. Once again, if the relationship needs to end it, but don't threaten the relationship. It's one of the most damaging things you can do. And number 10 is to avoid all forms of threat, attack, punishment, retribution, or passive aggression. We want to be direct. We want to be compassionate. We want to be open minded. We want to be flexible. We want to be collaborative. We want to be a lot of things, but punishing, threatening, passive aggressive, and the like are not among the things that we want to be during conflict or in a relationship. So to be threatening might sound like, and let's go with that first example of a couple where they have some conflict about the family dinner. Partner A comes to partner B and says, I felt pretty dismissed and disrespected by you last night at that dinner, and maybe offers a few reasons why. A threatening response might be like, well, you don't have to come with me next time. An attack might sound more like, what's wrong with you? You're just jealous of my family, which is totally weird. That's insulting, like you are attacking that person. Punishment in this case might be like, so if you don't like coming with me to my family dinners, I'm not going to your family dinner next week. It's like, okay, you did this, you're making me feel bad about it, so I'm going to get back at you. And passive aggression, I could probably come up with a lot of examples, but let's just go with, in this case, passive aggression might be like actually going to their family dinner the next time around and then giving them shit about their focus on somebody else, or just kind of using their complaints against you, against them. So accusing them of doing the things that they were saying you did previously. Could look all sorts of ways. Passive aggression is just that aggression coming out sideways. So I'm not going to try to break that down much more just for the sake of time, but you get the point. Number 11 is really important. And it should be the first thing that comes out of your mouth when you are on the receiving end of a partner complaint. And that is, I'm sorry. It's apologizing. Apologies contain the 3 R's. That's responsibility, remorse, and repair. So if your partner comes to you and says, hey, I felt disrespected at your family dinner last night, or if they say, hey, I know that you've been chatting with so and so, I saw the DMs and I'm worried about that. Whatever they come to you with, the first thing you should do is try to repair. And I'm not talking about taking responsibility for doing something that was innately innocent. I'm talking about apologizing for the element of that that resulted in your partner being hurt. So at this family dinner, only good intentions, right? Like I would say, most people fuck up with fully good intentions. And the fuck up is not the action as much as the impact. So impact, intent, right? We're not apologizing for the intent most of the time. So unless you had a bad intent, you're really just apologizing for the impact. So an apology to partner A might sound something like, God, I'm so sorry. I really want you to feel valued and included. And it was wrong of me to ignore you or dismiss you. And I really shouldn't have had that second drink. I know better. I know that you get worried about having to stay the night at somebody's house, and I shouldn't have put you in that position. It's very tempting to instead go, I never get to see my brother-in-law. He's one of my favorite people. So of course I hit it off with him, and I was never going to leave you stranded on the couch. Chill out. Like that was never going to happen. My intentions were good. I know how to have just 2 drinks over the course of 4 hours. I don't need you policing how much I'm drinking or making me feel bad for XYZ. That's what most people do. And what I want you to do is acknowledge that, yes, what I did impacted you. I don't want that to happen. That's the repair, like some offer for things being better in the future. So, responsibility, yes, I did that. The repair is, I don't want that to happen to you again. And the remorse is really just offering that empathy of, I'm sorry, I care about you. I see that something I did resulted in you feeling uncomfortable or hurt, and I don't want that to happen. So those 3 R's should be coming out of your mouth. And don't explain yourself until after relief has occurred. That's how it's presented in PACT. And I really like that. So we want to say right away, I am so sorry. I can see that. I was distracted and I told you I'd only have one drink and I had 2 drinks. And so it makes perfect sense that you felt the way that you did. I don't want you to feel that way. I will be sure not to do that in the future. And I'm so sorry. That should be the first thing out of your mouth. Now, if your partner receives that with a smile, a sigh, deep breath, and relaxing their shoulders and looking and feeling more connected to you, then it's a good time to explain, yeah, I should schedule some time to meet up with the brother-in-law because I do really enjoy his company. But, that evening, that wasn't a great time to focus on him because you felt ignored. That's not cool. But I do really like him and we really hit it off. And I would never, ever drive under the influence. I did have that second drink, but I had it, hour 2 out of the 4 hours we were there. And I just want you to know that I was really well aware of that. And I would never put you in a position where you'd be stranded or, whatever that is. So just wait to explain yourself until afterward. And the other example of the last resort, so she comes to him saying, like, I know you've been talking to this woman, and I'm concerned about that. Rather than, going into like, we're not doing anything. There's nothing inappropriate going on defending that. Just going to repair, like, you're right. I have been talking to somebody. I should have told you that. I can see why you would feel concerned or angry or scared about this. I never should have responded to her, or I should have told you right away. So that's the taking responsibility. It'll never happen again. I'm just going to ghost her, or I'm going to remind her that I'm in a relationship and I'm not interested in continuing a conversation with her. So offering some repairs, making it better for the future. And then the remorse of like, I'm sorry. Like I did make a mistake. You're right. I was wrong. And I'm going to step up now and make that better. Versus going into immediately something along the lines of, I didn't do anything wrong. You're exaggerating. You're being dramatic. Like going into defending yourself in that way ain't going to help. So just saying, you're right. I fucked up. It's not going to happen again is a great way to lead. Once your partner receives that, it still might be in the back of their mind, like, okay, I need more information about this relationship. How long has it been going on? Whatever. Do you ever meet up in person? There might be more questions, but start with that. Just start with, I'm so sorry. You're right. I'm here with you. Like, I'm going to show up and we're going to move through this together, not just gaslighting. Like, your reality is totally skewed. That attitude is so, so bad. So take in your partner's concern, take responsibility, offer remorse and repair, apologize. That isn't to say that you're apologizing for having conversations that you didn't tell her about. Like maybe that's not what you agreed on, but you should be apologizing because you had a conversation with a woman who your wife felt really intimidated by without telling your wife about it. She had to find out behind your back, and that is not good for trust. And really, that's on you. That was action that you took or action that you didn't take that resulted in damaging your relationships. So take responsibility. And if your partner receives that responsibility, that apology with some openness and continued connection, then you might be able to explain more details, explain your intentions, make her feel safer by offering some details of information, but don't explain until after relief has occurred. So number 12 here is a follow-up that I felt just warranted its own item on this list. And that is never say, I'm sorry, but never say, I'm sorry, but just, I'm sorry, I fucked up. You're right. I'm wrong, whatever. Just, you really need to take responsibility, offer repair, offer remorse, and no going into defense. It is such a fake apology to say like, I'm sorry, but you misconstrued what that conversation was. Or I'm sorry, but I never get to spend time with my family. Never follow up, I'm sorry with, but ever. That warranted its own item on this list, number 12. And the last item on this list is to avoid any communication that hints at scorekeeping. So, in response to your partner's concern about chatting with some chick on Instagram, you should not be immediately saying something like, well, I know that you're talking to so and so and so and so on Instagram. That's scorekeeping. Or, well, when we went to your family's dinner last time, you had completely ignored me. In fact, you've been doing that every time we go over there since we first met. You're always over focused on your sister, and you always leave me to have to hang out with so and so. That's scorekeeping. So that really proves that we are just keeping a mental list of our resentments. It's super unhealthy. And when you're on the receiving end of that kind of scorekeeping, it can be completely overwhelming and frustrating knowing that your partner didn't mention the concern. They've been indirect and likely passive aggressive about their hurt or concern all along. And they're pointing to that in this moment. I didn't bring it up at the time, but I'm bringing it up now. I'm weaponizing it now. That's what scorekeeping does. We weaponize our hurt, and it's not skillful. So don't do it. Another example might be like, well, I know you've been talking to so and so and so and so. They're in your DMs. So, and it's like, well, why didn't you say something if you were that worried about it? It's kind of Darbo-y, like defending and attacking and reversing victim and offender. So you're just reversing the stance. This person's coming to you with a complaint, and you're saying, you know what? I have more to complain about than you have to complain about. And it's reversing victim and offender. So I'm going to run through that list one more time. I know that this has kind of been another longish episode, so I'll try to keep it brief. Number one, monitor your own regulation. Number two is talk, don't yell. Monitor your tone of voice. And in fact, in that monitoring, you are regulating yourself, maintaining meta awareness, monitoring your tone, that is innately regulating. You're keeping the cortical areas of your brain online, so to speak. The third item is a repetition that you've got to consciously drop the need to be right. I think I've said enough about that. So I'm going to move on to number four, which is take a break if you're becoming dysregulated. If both or either of you are becoming dysregulated, do that skillfully. Offer a time to return to the conversation. Don't just abandon your partner. Which is related to number five, that's not pointing to your partner as the reason for needing a break. Not you are crazy, so I have to go. This is we need a break so that we can collaborate, so that we can communicate more effectively. Let's take care of us should be the tone, not there's something wrong with you. You can just say, I think we need to pause. Number six is another repetition because it's so important to use I language. I think, I feel, I worry that, and make that about what's happening on the inside. You really want to drop to a level of vulnerability, because without doing that, we're kind of just fighting about surface issues, and we're not really addressing why we need to care, why we need shift, which is that you felt something important that needs to be addressed, that needs some correction, some behavior change around so that you can feel safer in this relationship. That's where you should be coming from. Don't disagree with your partner's subjective experience. If they say they feel a certain way, if they say they're thinking a certain thing, believe. There's no sense in arguing with them, and it's very dismissive. It's gaslighting to tell them that their reality is not real. So just don't disagree. Take it in, take it seriously. And number 8 is to honor and take seriously your partner's expressions of hurt, concern, threat, jealousy, anything like that. If your partner is hurting, if your partner is worried, if your partner is feeling insecure, that's important information, and you both need to get to the bottom of it and shift something so that that's no longer impacting your relationship in such a destructive way. It's not going anywhere by denying its reality. Number 9, I'm going to repeat, don't threaten the existence of your relationship. I think I've said enough about that earlier in this episode, so I'll leave it there. Number 10 is avoiding all forms of threat, attack, punishment, retribution, and passive aggression. I also just spoke about that. So number 11 is apologize immediately without explanation or defense. And apologies are going to contain those 3 R's: remorse, responsibility, and repair. Number 12 is Never say, I'm sorry, but ever. It happens all the time. I'm sorry, but this is your fault, is really how that always comes across. And lastly, number 13, avoid any communication that hints at scorekeeping. Scorekeeping means that you've been too, I'm just going to say chicken shit to bring up that you've had an issue all along, that you're taking this opportunity where your partner's hurt to reverse victim and offender, take center stage and make it about you. Don't do that. There are all sorts of reasons not to score keep. It's weaponizing and really immature. Just try not to keep score. Try to address things when they happen and not bring them up just because your partner's heard about something you did. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you. As always, I want to encourage you to get professional help if you're suffering. I'm a therapist, but I'm not your therapist, and this is not therapy. I cannot ethically make any observation about your life. This is not information applied to you as it would be in a therapeutic context where consent forms are signed and everything. Podcasts and webcasts are not therapy. Don't rely on YouTube or podcast or Instagram or anything for your therapy needs. Oh, that also includes AI. Do not rely on AI. If you're suffering, you need help from a human and you deserve that. So pursue that. If you can't afford therapy, try a 12-step. You just have a lot of options, but do not rely on entertainment for your mental health purposes. Do not rely on entertainment as some form of therapy because it's not. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch or listen. My mission is to help adults with complex trauma learn how to thrive in relationships. So if you can like, share, or rate the videos or the podcast, it's super appreciated. Thank you so much once again. Take care of yourself, take care of your partner, and until next time.